Madden has some really great features that simply a lot of average players just don't know about. And these features can help you win more games on the field and also just make your gameplay experience more convenient. So today we're going to go over 10 important features that every Madden player needs to know about. Now this first feature we're going to go over is going to help you pick up those crazy blitzes a lot more consistently. If you play Madden, you know that you're going to get hit with blitzes. That's how people like to play. So here, let's show you what happens if we do nothing. The defense is bringing 6, we have 5 blocking, so naturally somebody should be free to pick us up. And a lot of times you're going to play people that simply run the same blitz over and over, and the same guy's going to keep hitting you over and over. Now obviously here's 6 blitzers versus 5 blockers. Somebody's supposed to get in, and simply blocking a running back might pick that up. But oftentimes in Madden, even if you have the right amount of blockers, somebody will still come free because the game can be glitchy if someone finds the right blitz. So we're going to use a feature to help us pick up the blitzer that wants to come free every time if our opponent's running the same blitz. Now this first starts with blocking the running back because you definitely need the running back for this feature to work. So to block the running back, we're going to press Y or triangle, select his icon, and then press the right trigger or the R2 button. Now he's blocked. Now we're going to use the feature, and it's called ID the mic. We can point out the blitzer and have him picked up almost every time. We do this by pressing the LB or L1 button. Then we're going to press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation to select ID the mic. We're then going to use our left thumbstick to move the M icon over to the blitzer that keeps coming free, and then we're going to press A or X again to select him. Now when we hike the ball, notice the running back get over there, pick him up, and we have time to deliver a pass and pick up easy yards versus the blitz. Now the next feature we're going to go over is something you're going to use around this area of the field where you're kind of inside the 30. It's either at the end of the game or maybe even the end of a half, and your goal is to keep the clock moving, not turn the ball over, but you're also trying to get a touchdown to either add on points or give yourself a more secure lead late in the game, but you're perfectly fine taking a field goal if it comes down to it. Now in this situation, the two main things are you don't want to turn the ball over and you don't want to stop the clock. But let's say they're blitzing you and you're not expecting it, or you get block shedded like this and now you take a sack. Good, the clock is moving, but now you just risk fumbling the ball, which happens. And you also don't want to go ahead and just throw the ball away because you do not want to stop the clock and give your opponent more time. Well, in this very specific situation, there is a feature that only high-level players really know about or use, and that's a way to give yourself up in the pocket, go down, keep the clock moving without risking a fumble. You do this by pressing the left trigger and the right thumbstick in, and your QB will do just that. He will lay down in the pocket. Again, you want to hold down the left trigger or L2 button while also pressing the right thumbstick in, and your QB will lay down and give himself up. Now, really quickly before we continue, I do want to let you know that I also have a Patreon page where I post the highest level Madden tips, strategies, ebooks, and mini schemes so that you can win more games and stop losing the games that you're supposed to be winning. If you want to take your Madden game to the highest level and start winning the majority of your games, make sure to check out the link in the pinned comment below. Now, speaking of giving yourself up, the next feature we're going to go over is similar to this, and this is one that definitely more people do know about, but it's also one I see asked about a ton as well, so we're going to cover it in this video. Now, when you're in the open field, sometimes the last thing you want to do is take a hit, or especially this year, allow the defense to strip you. Strip balls this year are very common, and good players are going to try to jar the ball loose in the open field. And then just taking big hits in general, or even just getting tackled, can always leave the chance for a fumble. Now, if you're in a situation, again, if it's the end of the half or end of the game, and you're trying to make sure the clock keeps moving, but you don't want to get stripped, take a big hit, but also you don't want to just go out of bounds because you need the clock moving, you can give yourself up in the open field by tapping the X button on Xbox or the square button on PlayStation. Whether you're running the ball or even passing the ball, this is something you can use in the open field to go down, avoid hits, and keep the clock moving. And this works the same way if you're scrambling with the quarterback. When you get in that open field and you don't want to take a hit, tap X or square. That'll help you slide and avoid fumbling. And the QB is so much more prone to fumbling than any other position, so always make sure to slide in the open field. Hey, if you're still here at this point of the video and you haven't subscribed yet, you might as well go ahead and subscribe, join the family. That way you never miss out on any of these important Madden tips or Madden news all year long. Now, this next feature is going to help you get much more creative on offense and absolutely give your opponents nightmares. So as you can see here, we are in a 5-wide spread look. We have 3 receivers on the field with 1 tight end and 1 running back, which is the most common personnel in every playbook. Now, if we want to, we can audible to different formations, and this itself is not the feature, it's kind of just the first part. So if we press X or square, we can then pull up our audibles, and then we can cycle through all of these different formations that have the same personnel that we're able to audible into. So for example, we can go from a spread out look into a compressed look like gun bunch, and these two formations are drastically different in terms of how you defend them. We're spreading the entire field out, and now we're coming into a complete compressed look. Now that itself can give opponents a lot of trouble, but but there's a way you can take this to the next level. So we're back at the play call screen in the empty base flex formation, and what we can do is we can press the Y or triangle button, and now we can sub players around. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take out my wide receivers, and I'm going to substitute a tight end in this position. And then I'm going to go to the other wide receiver, I'm going to press him, and then I'm going to sub a halfback in here. And then I'm going to go to this other receiver here on the outside, and I'm going to sub another tight end in at this spot. Now, obviously, we don't have all the best receiving options on the field here, but I'm just trying to show you what's possible when you change your personnel. So now when we pull up our audibles, we can audible into the gun heavy Raven, which is even more drastically different than a spread look. And if you're coming out in a completely spread look, most people on defense are going to come out in a defensive set to try to stop that. But now we can audible into a heavy look that has QB powers and things like that. We can also audible literally into goal line. And to defend a spread out 5 wide look and defend goal line, you can't defend that with the same defense. You just can't. Even if the receiving options on the field aren't the highest level wide receivers, you're not going to be able to defend both with the same look. But if you want to do this on a little bit more of a realistic level where you can do this with any team, you can go to a formation like gun bunch, for example. You can press Y or triangle, and let's say you sub out the slot receiver for another tight end. So we're basically just modifying gun bunch a little bit. We're adding a second tight end and removing a receiver. Now, you're not really limiting yourself by just adding a tight end in here, especially if you're using a team that has a second decent tight end, which a lot of teams do, like the Falcons, for example, or even the Ravens. Isaiah Likely is not too bad himself. And then we can now audible into some different personnel, like, for example, gun deuce close, which is a pretty cool formation. Or if your playbook has it even better, single back deuce close. So you're going from a gun bunch to then you can go to single back sets, which again are going to require very different defenses to stop, because now you're putting yourself in different sets that have a little bit more of a run game in them, but they have to come out in a defensive set that has to stop the pass first if you're coming out in gun bunch. Now, sticking with audibles, that's going to bring us to our next feature that not nearly enough people take advantage of, and this is a big game changer that was added some years ago. So for example, here we're looking at gun bunch. Once again, we're going to open up the formation, and then we're going to press the left trigger or L2 button. This is going to bring up our audibles. Now, these are the audibles that EA has stock. This is how the game comes. When you hop into a game, this is what your audibles are going to look like in the Ravens playbook. But the play spacing, for example, isn't always the best play in Madden, especially in gun bunch. The halfback sweep is not usually that good either. So you don't want these two plays here. You want plays that you're more comfortable with or plays that you like better. So you can select spacing, for example, and you can swap it out for something else. For example, like corner strike, which is a much better play. You can take out the sweep and you can add another passing play. You can add the draw play. You can add even a play like verticals, for example, which isn't a stock audible in this bunch, and that's one of the best plays in the game. So now when you come out in gun bunch and you pull up your audibles with X or square, instead of switching to a different formation, you have your formation audibles that are here. You can see X, Y, LB, and RB. So now we have plays like corner strike, and we've also put in plays like verticals. So now we have all the best plays at our disposal when we take the field. And you can do this with every formation in your playbook. So whichever ones you like to use, make sure you're subbing out the stock audibles for the actual plays that you like. So at any given time, you can switch between 5 plays that you absolutely love instead of only having 1 or 2 that you like. Now, speaking of audibles and selecting plays, let's stay with that same theme to quickly go over the next feature that almost nobody knows about, because it is kind of a newer feature and it's not one that was really ever heavily advertised. So let's say that you have a certain amount of plays that you just love to run, which every Madden player does. I don't care who you are. I don't care how realistic you try to play. Everybody has a few plays that they go to when they need it, where they feel comfortable. Everybody's got their favorite plays. Heck, real NFL teams have their go-to plays. So for example, let's say this play dagger here in gun Trey Y flex is your best go-to play in the game. It's your favorite play. You can do something that makes it easier to access this play every time you take the field, and you only have to do this one time. So here we're in the Saints playbook and we're looking at the play dagger. Now the play is the X button if we want to select it, but if we double tap the X button really quickly, you see that they added a little heart on the play. Now let's also say there's another play here in the bunch Y flex, and you like this play bench pivot, and that is the Y button. You can quickly tap the Y button twice, put a heart by that one. In box Y off, maybe you like this play Y trail right here, which is the A button. We can hit that A button twice really quickly, and we put a heart by it. Now, anytime you go into a game with this playbook after that, you can see up here you have these tabs where you can scroll through them with the LB or RB button, or if you're on PlayStation, L1 or R1, and you can cycle over to favorites. And this is a tab where all of your favorite plays are saved. So whether it's 2, 3, or even 20 plays, you have your favorite plays there, and you never have to go back to your formations and just consistently cycle through each formation and cycle through to find the plays. No, you can just go to your favorites tab, and all of your must-have plays will just be there ready for you. Now, this next feature here is something that is a little bit more advanced, but this will change your game so much in Madden, and it's something that all of the best players use. So here, for example, you can see on defense, I'm in a blitz, right? But I might not want to run it the same way every time. I might want to make an adjustment. I might want to run this same blitz out of a cover 2 look, which is a popular thing to do. Now, if I wanted to change this defense to a cover 2, what I would normally have to do is I'd have to go over to this cornerback here, press A or X, down on the left stick, put him in a cloud flat. Then I have to jump on this safety, hit A or X, and then put up on the left stick to put him in a deep half. And I have to do the same thing on each player. Then I have to get back on my user defender, right? That takes a lot of time. You can do it quick, but it's not the quickest way to do it. So instead, what we're going to use is the feature that allows you to do this without having to move around. So I can stay on this guy right here and still adjust them. So if I want to adjust my secondary players, for example, I can hit the Y or triangle button twice, 1, 2, and then you can see this brings up all the icons of my secondary players. So I can then hit the X button and then down on the left stick to put him in the cloud flat. And then I do the same thing again, Y, Y, LB up, Y, Y, A up, Y, Y, B down. Now I've set the cover 2. And granted, this still is going to take a little time to do. You have to get quicker at doing it, but it's much quicker to do it this way than having to cycle through each player to do it. This way, you can still stay on your user and you're never caught out of position. Let's say you get caught over here trying to adjust this last guy and they snap the ball, and now you're using a cornerback, which isn't the most ideal. Usually you want to stay on the middle of the field and cover the middle because that's the easiest, quickest area to attack. Now, let's say I'm running the same blitz, but I want to adjust one of my linebackers. For example, I want to take this guy on the right, and then I want to put him in a curl flat. Well, I'd have to get on him and do that. Or I can stay on my user and quick adjust him. For the linebackers, you're going to go right on the D-pad twice. So 1, 2, then you see his icon pop up. You would select him and then do the curl flat adjustment. So I can do that without moving to him. And if I want to adjust someone on the D-line, I would go left on the D-pad twice, bring up the D-line, and then if I want to drop X back into a zone, I can do that as well. So this is just a way to quick adjust without having to actually cycle through your players, and this will make you a much better defensive player. Now, this next feature is also on the defensive side of the ball, and it's one of the most unused features in the game, but one of the most critical, especially when it comes to stopping the run, which we know some years can be very tough in Madden. Sometimes you're trying to stop a specific run and you're wondering, why am I having so much trouble stopping it? Why can't I figure out how to contain this run? Well, the answer to this is you probably don't understand the run fits. Now, every different style of coverage has a different run fit. Cover 2 run fits are not the same as cover 3 or cover 4 or cover 0. Now here, for example, we're in a cover 3 and maybe we're expecting a run to the right. We need to know what our run fits are if somebody's running to the right all the time. Now, to check our run fits, we need to hold down the left trigger or L2 button, and then on Xbox, you're going to also need to hold down the X and B button. If you're on PlayStation, you're going to hold down the square and circle button. And when we hold all those buttons down, now look at the defense. We can see what our run fits are. The players that have no lines by them are not in the run fit. That means they're going to drop back into their coverage initially, whereas the safety on the right, for example, you can see where his run fit is. It's right between the tight end and the right tackle. So that is what his responsibility is if the offense runs the ball. And you can see the guy with the F over him, he's the forced defender, and you can see that he looks like he's in a contain. His job is containing the right edge if they run to the outside. Us, the user, our run fit is right here. We're supposed to be running here. Now, obviously, if we see a guy running outside, we're going to try to run outside and stop him, but keep in mind that will leave a cutback lane here because we're not filling our gap. Now, if we go to a cover 2, again, left trigger, X and B, or L2, square and circle. Now look at the run fits. We can see that neither of the safeties are in run fits, but instead now the forced defender is actually the cornerback on the outside. So if you're expecting a stretch or a toss, for example, usually a cover 2 will be a good option because that outside cornerback being a forced defender in that run fit is going to make it hard to get outside of him. And then you can see that all the linebackers are responsible for these individual gaps to try to stop a cutback lane. So they're going to run the ball here, and we're just going to try to get to the outside, and you can see it's hard for him to get out there because we have the forced defenders and the run fits to the outside. Now here we're in a cover 4 and we're going to check our run fits, and notice how the safeties are in run fits. So for example, if you're expecting inside runs like an inside zone, a halfback dive, you want to typically be in a cover 4 because the safeties are going to shoot down into the box, and if you want to make it better, you can even manually bring them down a little bit to help out to get them there quicker. But this is going to help you stop inside zones, whereas if you're worried about outside zone runs like stretches and tosses, you might want to look at a cover number 2 more likely than this, because you're going to have that force defender that's going to help you on the outside. So we're going to fill our gap here, and you're going to see the safety is going to shoot down, and it's going to limit the amount of yards that the running back gets. Now, does that mean that they cannot get positive yards in this? Of course not. You can still get positive yards, but the safeties shooting down like this are going to help limit a big play because they're filling their gaps in the middle. This next feature is bringing us to the depth chart screen, because this is something that goes so overlooked, but it can help you so much when playing game to game. If we hold down the right trigger or R2 button, we scroll to the actual back of our depth chart, and you're going to see there's specific positions here like third down running back, power halfback, slot receiver, slot cornerback, for example. Now, what's interesting about this is that you can set certain players in these spots so that you don't have to change them when you're on the field or at your play call screen. So for example, let's just say that with the Dolphins, or really any team you use, you like to put your best receiver in the slot, because the slot is the hardest position to cover, and especially in Madden, it's even more true than real life. So let's say you never want Braxton Berrios to be in your slot. You always want Tyreek Hill because of his speed and just because of how good he is. Well, you can put him at the number 1 spot at your slot receiver, and now no matter what formation you call, he will always, every single time, be in the slot. He will never line up anywhere else. And the same can be true for your slot corner. If you're playing someone that also does this, which is very common, maybe you always want Jalen Ramsey to be in your slot. You never want him on the outside. Well, you can do this. Or let's say third down halfback. Let's say, for example, that instead of Mostert, you always want A-Chain here because he's a little bit faster. And if he catches the pass, he might be able to get a little bit more yardage, right? You can go sub him here, and on every single third down, he will be in. You will not have to manually sub him in. This next tip we're going to go over is more of a convenience feature than anything, but I know a lot of people for some reason still just don't know about it. So let's just say you're playing the game, it doesn't matter the time of the game, but let's just say wherever you're at in the game, you got your clock running, right? Now, something you can do for your convenience that's really helpful is if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can double tap the right thumbstick in to change the tempo. So if I double tap the right joystick once, the tempo is going to change to no huddle. So now what's going to happen if I'm on the field, let me show you. If I run a play and I just want to immediately keep everything moving and I don't want to manually no huddle, I don't have to press anything. After the play, they're going to line up and the no huddle is just going to already be there ready to go for me. Now this next one you're going to use more often. So if we double tap the right stick again, it's going to go from no huddle to chew clock. Now what this is going to do is chew the clock for you every play. So you might want to use this late in the game if you're just trying to run out clock to kick the last field goal, or maybe, you're just up a bunch of points in the second half and you're just trying to get the game over as quickly as possible. You could set chew clock so that after you run the ball, you run a play, you come out in your new play and watch the play clock. It's going to go instantly down to 10 seconds. So you don't have to wait for it to tick, tick, tick. It'll instantly go down to 10. Just make sure you are ready to hike the ball before it gets to 0, because you're going to have less play clock and you can run clock so much quicker that way in your games. Now that you know about these great features, you're halfway there. Next, you want to learn about the best pro tips in Madden, and you can check out that video right here on the screen.